American Top 40.
Here now is the female singing star who was instrumental in getting the Jackson 5 a contract with Motown Records. And along with the boys' parents and Motown president Berry Gordy Jr., she's still helping manage their career. And that means that we still have the same number one song that we had last week.
Billboard's number one.
In case you're wondering, here she is, the girl from Detroit, right up at the top, with the song Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Diana Ross.
American Top 40.
This is Casey on American Top 40. Now, the current hit by the singing star who discovered the most successful recording act of the past 18 months. During the 60s, she'd been the lead singer of the most successful female recording act of all time. And when she saw 5 young brothers doing their act at a civic function in Gary, Indiana a couple of years ago, she wasted no time in having her label sign them to a contract. And Motown Records can't thank her enough for bringing them the Jackson 5. The last time she performed as a member of the top female recording act of all time was January 1970 in Las Vegas. As a solo act, she's on the charts now for the 4th time. At number 38, here's former Supreme Diana Ross.
American Top 40.
This is Casey Kasem on American Top 40, and now it's time for the latest smash by the only entertainer in the world ever invited for a social visit to the Imperial Palace by the Emperor and Empress of Japan. Now, that's not just during the lifetime of the present Emperor and Empress, but in the entire 2,600-year history of the Japanese Empire. Now, I know that sounds hard to believe, but if Diana Ross understood the Empress Nagako correctly, then it's true. Having entertainers in for a social chat apparently hasn't been a practice of the royal court. But everything changes sooner or later, and early in July during Diana's concert tour of Japan, she received an invitation from the Emperor and the Empress to come to the palace for tea. And what they chatted about was the only truly international language: music. I don't know how Diana's latest single is doing this week in Japan, but in the United States, it's at number 4.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
How many artists can you think of that have been nominated for Academy Awards? How many artists can you think of who've had more than a dozen number one records? Well, there's Elvis and the Beatles come to mind right away, but there's one more. The lady who had 12 number ones as the lead singer of the Supremes, plus 2 more as a solo artist when she left the group. This was the most recent. It hit number 1 last August, and it's the 10th biggest song of the year. Here's the girl who was nominated for an Academy Award her first time out.
Touch me in the morning.
American Top 40.
This is AT40 in Hollywood, and I'm Casey Kasem. Well, now we're up to the song by the female superstar who's done what no other performer has ever done. She's managed to hit number 1 in 3 different configurations: as a solo singer, as half of a duo, and as part of a trio.
It's my turn. If I don't have all the answers,
It was with that trio that this woman first took that long trip to the top spot. As 1/3 of the Supremes, she went to number 1 12 times between 1964 and 1969. Then, as a solo act, the lady continued her string of number ones, going to the top an additional 5 times. And most recently, she hit number 1 for the first time as half of the duo of Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. She's the Diana Ross half, the only performer ever to hit number 1 as a solo artist, as half of a duo, and as part of a trio. And here's the song that completed that sweep 2 weeks ago when it first went to the top. For the 3rd week in a row, the number 1 song in the USA is Endless Love by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie.
My love.
American Top 40.
We're on our way to the number 1 song in the USA and counting down. Well, now we're up to the current hit by Diana Ross and the story about Diana that Murray the K told us. Murray the K, of course, was the legendary New York disc jockey and concert promoter, the late Murray Kaufman. And here's a story he told us a couple of years back. In 1964, Murray said he had booked one of his big stage shows in the Fox Theater in Brooklyn. His headline act was Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, supported by Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Cherry and the Pacemakers, The Moody Blues, and a fairly new act, Diana Ross and the Supremes. This was a few months after the Supremes' first hit, Where Did Our Love Go?, and just about the time their second hit, Baby Love, was peaking. And the Supremes' part in the show was to sing just one song, Baby Love. Well, on the third day of the show's run, Murray told us, Diana Ross came up to him and asked if the Supremes could sing another song. He said, "You mean instead of Baby Love?" Diana said, "No, in addition to it." And Murray said, "Honey, there's no time. All my star acts have only 2 songs, and my headliner, Smokey, is only doing 3. And Diana asked, "When can I do 3 songs?" Murray said, "When you're a movie star." So fade out on that scene in the Brooklyn Fox Theater in 1964 and fade in on a Hollywood restaurant 15 years later. Murray the K is having lunch, and somebody walks up behind him, leans over his shoulder, and asks in a soft, sweet voice, "Murray, now can I do 3 songs?" Superstar, movie star Diana Ross remembered. That story is part of the legacy that Murray the K has left us. Murray died the week before last, but his legend lives, and Diana Ross is part of it.